versa, and therefore he acquires her, and her part has to agree. And she can say, I don't want this guy. She doesn't want this guy. She doesn't want this guy, you know. So therefore, by agreeing, she actually bends her finger when the ring is put on this finger, you know, the index finger to the right hand. So I once learned from a very cute rabbi, a English fellow. He said to the bride, he said, would you kindly point to the man you want to marry? And she went like that. So he went like that. And that's how he got married. Anyway, so that's the first part. The second part is a religious involvement of Hashem, to bring the divine presence to reside within the couple, within their home, and that's the chuppah. And the chuppah would consist of 7 brachas, more blessings from Hashem for the couple. The custom was that because they're 2 separate issues, that there should be a separation of time between the 2. Generally, that was known as 12 months. And after the man made the acquisition, then he would go home to his home and prepare for the wedding, prepare himself on a spiritual level, physical, and an emotional level. And she would go home to her home and prepare herself also on a physical, a spiritual, and emotional level. And then they two would come back together 12 months later. The rabbis saw that this wasn't working. In other words, here's where rabbinical enactment comes in to suggest, let's make a rabbinical rule. So we've all been taught that there are 3 ways that the rabbis legislate law. One of them is by coming up with new mitzvahs. They only come up with 7 of them, as we learned on Hanukkah time. Hanukkah being one of them. And the other one, and that's when they had to come up with something brand new, which they felt the time was demanding. I mean, Hanukkah was a kind of experience where it just demanded that there be a holiday of spiritual response. And that's been forever. We celebrate Hanukkah every year. And other mitzvahs as well, that the other mitzvahs of the Rabbana, which we learned about, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I wonder if we learned it on is that what we learned on the Zoom? Did we learn the Zoom about the Rabbana? Yeah, maybe that's right, yeah. Anyway, so the Rabbana came up with another area of legislation called the Takana. Takana was when they legislated something that would work for society. So this worked for society, that they abolished this 12-month deal, because during the 12 months, you know, you would it'd be getting too frustrating for the couple. And the rabbis were afraid that maybe they would be, they might succumb to disloyalty to one another, whatever. So the rabbis decided to make the same thing happen all at once, but you can't do it all at once because they're 2 separate items. That's why you'll notice that every wedding is 2 separate cups of wine. One for the engagement, which is what we call the giving of the ring, and the other for the actual wedding, which is the Sheva Brachos and the chuppah. We do it all in the chuppah together. So how do we separate it? Well, for one thing, we have 2 separate cups of wine, 1 and 2. And the other thing we have is the reading of the ketubah. The ketubah is also a rabbinical enactment. The man undertakes for himself the obligation to commit himself and financially support his wife as appropriate, including obligations beyond the life of the marriage. It should last till 120 years. And in his estate, there will be money set aside to pay that ketubah to provide for his widow. This was an enactment. So the rabbis made the ruling that said, if the Torah requires this, we will require, in addition, a document to verify that. And that document is called the ketubah. And of course, we've always followed the rabbis, and as we always do. By the way, I might add that next week is an interesting class. Next week will be devoted to the development of rabbinic law in terms of its authority based upon the whole. I'm going to give out papers showing how it all transmitted down through the centuries and how we get to what we got today. And so we do have this connection, which I think is important to learn, because I want people to understand that what we have today as our religious practice is not something we came up with, and not something that our bubbies and sadies and grandparents came up with. It's something that's been with us since Mount Sinai, and I'll show you that whole development next week with Hashem. But in any event, so the rabbis came up with a rule called get it into writing. So now, if let's say a couple gets married, but they don't have the ketubah, they don't have it in writing. So then what takes place is that maybe they break up, God forbid, that 10 years from now, whatever it is, and she says, or maybe he even dies, and then she wants to get from the estate her money coming to her. So she goes to the bed, to the court, and says, I married this guy, and I want my money. So obviously, we all know that possession is 99% of the law. So therefore, he's got the money. She wants it. She's got a burden of proof. It's on her. Prove that's true. So she says, well, I got married this and this date, this and this hall, this and this caterer, and so forth and so on. And he says, not a chance. It's a lie. It's a blatant lie. We never got married. I don't even know who you are. So the burden of proof is on her. So we have, of course, an enactment, again, by the rabbis that says you have to have witnesses. Problem is the witnesses are in New York. And we live in LA, and I ain't got the money to fly them out. So what do? So what I do is at the wedding, I have them sign on that ketubah. So that's all I have to do to the bedin is present the document and say, hey, fella, you're a liar. You see? So in so doing, it makes it easier on a person on the woman to secure what she deserves to get. In any event, so we will read the document, which is about a 5-minute interlude of words that nobody understands, because it's written in the ancient Aramaic, in Talmudic language. And what we will do is we'll read it to the extent of the. There you go. There you go. I'm out of this. Oh, I have it. Yes, this is Vayigash. So basically, what takes place is that they will read the ketubah in between the giving of the ring and the shever brachos to suggest that these are two separate items. So what I do under the chuppah, to be a little humorous, is I say to the couple, are you interested in waiting 12 months? Usually the answer is no. So.
Well, you said usually, so have people said yes?
No.
There's a lot more than usual.
Yes. We're in the mikvah. The person is immersing for the gerus, for the conversion. And we are responsible for Jewish law to offer the person now. You want to change your mind? How many people know my career have ever changed their mind in the water? Nobody. Most of the often I evoke laughs, but I don't mind laughs. I like whenever you laugh at my jokes, I feel happy. So anyway, right. Anyway, before we get into the discussion on the fast days, which is pretty important, because the fast day is coming up on Tuesday. Oh, by the way, the reason I brought up this wedding issue is because for those that were here Thursday, I'm sure you had a good time, whatever it is, enjoyed it, right? There's another one this afternoon at 1 o'clock. If you want to stick around, 1 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, that's why I'm dressed up so good. Anyway,
Is another one?
another one.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Here?
Yeah, right here. Right here in front of your eyes. I promise. You never know what Rabbi Black has up his sleeve. You never know.
This is true.
Who? I don't know. Whoever.
You'll know when you get here.
No, I'm not joking. I'm serious. best kind of jokes are serious.
Maybe it's one-sided.
You crack the smile out of this guy. And anyway, so if you want to stick around, everyone's invited, and you'll see a wedding in action. For those who are Thursday, repeat performance. For those that weren't here, you can stick around and learn a little about it. Of course, there's another benefit, by the way, to coming to a wedding. And the benefit is for the girls to approach the bride, and for the fellows to approach the groom and to ask for a bracha. And in this way, maybe soon your time will get married. And so that's also a very good thing to do. We didn't do Parsha this last Thursday because of the wedding, so I'll do Parsha real quick now. We don't have the we don't have the I didn't bring out the Chumash because I just simply want to go through the Parsha for the page that I wrote, Parashas Vayigash. And I begin. The word Vayigash, and I really get a kick out of taking the name of the parsha and just getting into that name. Like, what does the word Vayigash mean? What does the name of each parsha mean? Vayigash means to approach. Let me show you how to approach. That's approach. This is not approach. Shaking hands is not approach. Approach is eyeball to eyeball, nose to nose,
King to king.
ear to ear. Now we all know that the parsha begins with Yehuda approaching Yosef. Yosef, he doesn't know it's Yosef. Yosef is the prime minister of Egypt. Now this approach is rather interesting because first of all, we all know that Yehuda and Yosef have been going at it ever since. In other words, at the end of the day, while the brothers were opposing Yosef, the man that was leading the opposition was Yehuda. And it's been Yehuda and Yosef ever since. Yosef, for his part, is the prime minister. He's the firstborn of Rachel. And being the firstborn of Rachel, he's entitled to the kingship. He's the firstborn. On the other hand, the other wife, Leia, her firstborn Reuben was disqualified for a certain reason. And the next two brothers, Shimon and Levi, were also disqualified because even though they had done a heroic act, it was a violent act. And that was when they destroyed the city of Shem, who had violated their system. And so therefore, they were disqualified as well, even though it was a meritorious act, but it does cause a disqualification. King David was a great king and fought wars against enemies for the Jewish people for God. But God said to him, "You can't build a temple in Jerusalem, the Beit HaMikdash, because your hands are bloodstained. You've got involved in the wars. But I'll be war. I promise for Hashem. Nevertheless, it is." We end up doing a lot of things that are really right and good, but it does have a residue upon us. So we don't want to do what we have to do. Sometimes we have to pay the price. And paying the price, there's nobility about us for doing so. It's a good thing. But you still have to pay the price. And not everybody's life, nobody's life is perfect. And so therefore, you have to have some area where you have to give in somewhere and say, well, this is not for me because I'm involved in something else. And that was the Shimon and Levi. So Yehuda, number 4, becomes the leader of the children of Leia. And Yosef is the firstborn of Rachel. And there was this conflict. Yosef, for his part, believes he's the king because he says he's got this dream. And all the 11 stars, that's his brothers and the son of Moon, are all bowing to him, which of course he's right. They ended up doing that. So maybe he is the king. But Yehuda says, no, I'm the king. I'm the son of Rachel, the favorite. But I'm the son of Leia with the most children. And that's been going on ever since. And Yehuda does take his role as a leader. He's the one, after all, that some brothers said throw him into a pit. Other brother said, kill him. He's the one that came up with the idea of selling him into slavery, and they all listened to him. He's the leader. They all felt that Yosef was a revolt in the kingdom of Yehuda, and as such deserved to be sent away. In fact, he deserved to be killed, in fact. That's the halacha. We can't revolt against the king. But Yehuda also took responsibility. That's what a king's all about, responsibility. And he said, I got to bring Binyamin down to this evil viceroy in Mitzrayim so we can get food. Yaakov, for his part, is reluctant to send Binyamin because Binyamin is the sole surviving son of Rachel. He's lost Yosef already, so he thinks. And so Yehuda comes and says, look, we can't go back without him. I assume full responsibility. What does it mean to assume full responsibility? You ever see that? I take responsibility. No. The buck stops here. The CEO of the company. What does that mean? Responsibility. I take responsibility for this mistake. I take responsibility for this problem. Thank you very much, big deal. What does it mean take responsibility? Yehuda says, if I don't get the job done, I don't bring Yosef, Binyamin back to you, he says to his father. I will be held in sin all the days. All the days of this world, all the days of the next world, forever. I will be held in punishment from Hashem for eternity. The man says, I protect you with my life. What does that mean? That means he's ready to give his life. That's pretty big responsibility. But if a man says he's ready to give his life, not just in this world, but in the world to come forever, that's an awesome responsibility. You've got to get the job. And now, his responsibility is in jeopardy. Because what? Because Yosef parades as the viceroy, the vice minister, prime minister. He says, this Binyamin stole my cup. He playing with the cup in the saddle. Everyone knows the story. And he's he's going to be my slave forever. So of course you have to just think for a moment. Okay, Yehuda, as well as the other brothers, see this horror opening up in front of him. He's opening up saddlebags. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then he opens up the Binyamin's and there's the cup. Now they know that Binyamin didn't steal the cup. They know that. So what do they know? They know that, make yourself comfortable. Here you go. So they know, here you go. Wake up. Come on. Go sleep. So they know that the Binyamin didn't steal it. So because they look up to the heavens and say, hey, God, what are you doing to me? Of course, they understand what God's doing to them. Thomas. We sold our brother into slavery, and as a result, this is coming back to haunt us. Can someone have a good enough memory for 22 years to remember what you did 22 years ago that haunts you today? Well, maybe none of you are old enough to do that. No, I can tell you, the mistake I made 22 years ago. It comes back to me. You can do it for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever you can do. But think about it. I'm ending up having this problem because why? Because something happened, something I did improper 5 years ago. So, and that takes connection, that takes awareness, that takes clarity. Can you connect an event that happened here to here? Well, the brothers do, because they're intelligent people, and they are spiritual people, and they're in touch with God, and they know, hey, we messed up. Okay, folks, what do we do now? So along comes Yehuda and takes responsibility. He's going to negotiate for Binyamin's release. And here's where the story begins. Vayigash means to approach. It means to confront and to connect. Admittedly, confrontation and connection are opposites in the sense that connection is positive and confrontation is negative. Yet there are times when the approach is so close and so intimate that it could be both. And you could have both a confrontation and a connection simultaneously. The fact is that the closer the approach, the closer the connection, the greater chance of confrontation. Look at that last sentence, or read it to yourself, and tell me what kind of relationship does this describe? The closer the approach, the closer the connection, the greater chance for confrontation. Is that not marriage?
Oh, yeah.
Is that not marriage?
Or brother and sister.
Brother and sister, parents and children.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is, folks.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? So, what's the question here? I mean, again, the wife is upset over something, and the husband's upset over something. And they're fighting, and he tries to get his point across. She don't listen. She tries to get her point across. He don't listen, and they go to a therapist. Now, the therapist, you understand, says the same thing over to the wife and the same thing over to the husband, and they accept. Why do they accept what this third objective party has to say? Because he's not that close. When you're not that close, you can, in fact, communicate better, which oftentimes teaches you a good lesson. Sometimes a little bit of a distance helps the relationship. That's why we have needle laws. Think about that. Isn't that great? That's why we have needle laws, that we're not intimate for 12 days out of every month. Husband and wife are separate. You understand? And separation is healthy. So what are we saying here? We're saying here that sometimes, however, you do have to confront. I have an idea. Why don't you sit down and make yourself comfortable? Are you good? Okay. So now I'll give you an example of a confrontation. I was davening in shul, in the shul here in the valley. And then before I opened up my own shul, about 10 years I prayed in another shul. I won't say the name. And there's a lot of talking in the shul. So I opened up my own shul and made the new rule: no talking. So I couldn't take it anymore. So that's where I'm almost selfish to open up my own shul. But you need something? What do you need? I have one of this, and I have one of this. And this is, I have two of these, okay? And I have two of these. Yes, ma'am, I do. Thank you. Nice. Okay, so basically, I was sitting in front of one guy. I'll never forget it. And it got to be too much. And I lost it. I'm sitting in the back. I used to sit in the back shop. And this guy's talking, and he talked in the middle of the new shop. Now you know everybody, you can't talk in the middle of the new shop. So finally he sat down. I tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around and I said, "Why don't you shut up?" You never heard anybody say that his whole life, especially in shul. I lost that. I said, "Shut up." So, of course, his eyes bulged in terror. And needless to say, I said it again. So just for greater emphasis, you know. I'm not a guy, I'm not shy. So anyway, for 2 years, we didn't talk. Now he's my best pal. But, you know, there are times when you got to have confrontation. And we're going to talk about that right now. Our parsha is called Vayigash. There's more than one approach in our parsha. There's 10 of them, in fact. 10 confrontations, 10 connections. Our parsha is loaded with them. I'm going to suggest 10 of them. Number one. Number one, Yehuda approaches Yosef. Now remember now, folks, we're at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood, on the Hollywood Boulevard, and there's going to be this great movie in this. Lower. And there's going to. I love when Michael does that. I just love when Michael does that. Anyway, and we're going to see this You know, all these movies, all this dramatic Hollywood stuff is, you know, confrontations back and forth, you know. So we're gonna get one confrontation after another, one craziness after another. And the first one is Yehuda approaches Yosef. So the movie starts off with a bang. Yehuda approaches Yosef. He whispers in his ear, indicating a very close approach, in which he says, I respect your position of leadership as much as if you were power itself. However, I'm desperate to save my brother, and if I have to, I'll kill you in pharoah as well. Let's set the stage. Here's Yehuda with his brothers, all shocked, right? And as they're really shocked, to find the couple, the youngest thing, and Yehuda's got to take responsibility and got to get going and stuff. He's got to do something. I mean, his life's at stake, his future's at stake, his all about boys at stake, right? What's he going to do? So he approaches Yosef. I have a problem in understanding. What's my problem? I don't understand how he did it. I'm assuming Yosef is surrounded by Secret Service. I'm assuming there's loads of guys with swords and spears and whatever, that any guy that makes the slightest approach to him is going to get beheaded. Right? You can imagine, the President of the United States walks down the street, and as the President of the United States walks down the street, what happens? The Yitzhak right there for you. Your name's on it, right there. See that one right over there? So as what's name approaches, like these guys are ready to pounce on him. How did he get there? I'm asking you again, how did he get that close to the president in which he's able to whisper in his ear? And he whispers in his ear for another reason too, because he's threatening the guy.
Yeah.
Now, if you're threatening the guy, and these guys hear it, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna kill you, right? How do you get that close?
Well, he did it because he approached Yosef.
Yeah.
He approached Yosef.
How do you get there?
But didn't
So I want to say a very interesting thing. This is Block's take on this. Blockism. I say he was a desperate man, and desperate people can do desperate things and get away. I say that if you're desperate enough, and you really want something bad enough, and you need something bad enough, nothing can stand in your way. I believe that you listen, look, I have no choice. They kill me, kill me. I'd rather die. I can't leave Benjamin here. You understand? I can't come back and see my father. I can't. No, I won't, I can't. When you look at something and say, I can't live without this, or I can't not get this done, or I can't violate this. You're talking about a desperate person that, in fact, will get done what he or she needs to get done. And you have to think about it again on a personal level. When was something so important to you that you pushed it forward? Okay, now you know what to do. This week. Okay, anyway, so I think that desperation is a great virtue in terms of being able to really get the job done. Particularly if it's a job that's serious, it's a mitzvah, it's important, it's service to God, it's for yourself, and it's something to understand that is more important than your life itself. When you begin to think in those terms, you become a person who can really get the job done. But then he goes further. In this confrontation, in which he actually whispers in his ear, he says to him two things. I respect your leadership, but I'll kill you. Now, that, friends, is a little oxymoron, wouldn't you say? That's an oxymoron. No? I have a lot of respect for you, but I'll shoot you in the head.
And Pharaoh too.
And Pharaoh too. And Pharaoh too. I mean, do you understand here? It's an oxymoron. to understand the reality or the legitimacy of an oxymoron. The legitimacy is the fact that he has a right to kill him. He's not gonna kill him. I'm not gonna kill him. I'm not afraid. What do I got to lose? They'll kill me? What do I care? They'll kill me.
But Hashem was with him 100%.
Okay, maybe Hashem will be with me. Maybe Hashem will say that my time is up. Whatever. I'm gonna kill this guy. And I'm not afraid to say so. But that doesn't frighten Yosef. That impresses Yosef. To hear this emotional confrontation. Why?
Because there's a redemption.
But they didn't do it.
No, because he says as a prelude, I have respect for your leadership. An evil man,
Right,
but it was as evil as you can get. If he's in a position of leadership, if he's in a position of leadership, for whatever reason God put him there, you gotta respect him. You gotta respect him. You gotta respect him. Now, you're a person who is fundraising for a great religious cause, a shul, a yeshiva, or whatever it may be. I need money. So you go to this very wealthy man. Now, you think you need him. Of course, you shouldn't think that way. He needs you. He needs you to get the mitzvah done. You don't need him at all. If you don't get drunk, you get him from somebody else. But you are pretty desperate because you do need the money. So you go to the guy and you got to give that respect. And the guy treats you badly. Still got to give him respect. You may not like him. You don't have to like him. You hate him. But you have to respect him. Richard Nixon was a president of the United States. He violated the Constitution. If he didn't resign, he would have been impeached. Okay, maybe he did crimes, you're right. You gotta respect. He's president of the United States. President Trump is hated by more people than anyone ever. The only one president I ever saw was hated more than him, or possibly equal to him, was Johnson. You gotta give him respect. It's not him. It's the office. Now, everyone makes fun of Joe Biden. Biden's a bumbling oaf. They want to say, God forbid, he's demented or whatever. All these terrible things about him. Maybe they're right. But not so. And these late night talk shows that make fun of the president, stuff like that, that's filth and garbage. It's disgusting. I don't like Joe Biden, but he's a president of the United States. You have to respect the man. He respects the leader. You're the vice president of Mitzrayim. You want to kill my brother or take my brother as a slave? That's not respect. On the other hand, can I fight? Can I organize protests? Can I try to impeach the guy? Do whatever you want. But you have to respect the office of president. You have to respect leadership. Now, the interesting thing about this respect is that when Yosef was summoned from prison, and Yosef was given to Paro over to interpret those dreams, and he came up with the 7 cows, 7 bad, 7 good, 7 good years, 7 bad years. Why did Paro accept his interpretation so readily? Because he displayed to Paro
Hashem, you say,
he displayed great respect. Through Hashem, he expected that, but he showed him respect. And of course, as we all know, Paro was quite impressed. Now, in this week's Passion, we're going to jump a little bit. Finally, of course, the brothers do come back and tell him Yaakov and Yosef is still alive. So they bring him down to Mitzrayim, and guess what? Paro, king of Mitzrayim, says, I want to meet your father. I want to meet the man who fathered the man who saved my country. But more than that, I want to see the man who taught you how to respect, how to give honor. You gave me honor. And the reason is because you gave your father. Because you treated your father like a king, like a melech. And therefore, I want to see who taught you that. I want to see the man with that stature. Now, you understand, Yaakov, for his part, is not interested in being Paro. I mean, I come here as an immigrant to the United States of America. You think I care about being the president? Last thing on my agenda. But now I go to a ball game. What do I care about the president of the United States? But He wants to see me. He wants to see me. Why does he want to see me? Because not only does he want to meet the man who fathered the man who saved Egypt, but he also, and a role model that he is, but he also knows that as a political leader, he needs a religious blessing. The religious man doesn't need him. I don't need Biden. Biden needs me. He needs a religious blessing. Otherwise, he can't succeed. Why do every president have these clergymen with the invocations at the inauguration? Why do they do that for? They need the religious person. The religious person is not even a political leader. And we'll survive long beyond more and more and more success in political leaders. So we have to get this perspective, of course, of understanding the stature of a person who's truly religious, who's truly connected to God, who's truly, the fact is that if I want God's blessings and success here, I need you. Yes. So Paro, of course, wants to meet Yaakov. But Yaakov, he understands Yaakov through who? Through Yosef. And that's why Yosef gets through, makes the confrontation, and says to him, you don't do what I ask of you. You understand? That's confrontation number one. Okay? Movie's getting exciting. Right? No one's going out for popcorn, right? Okay. Number two. Whoa. Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. Whoa. Heavy. The brothers are shocked, cannot respond. The heavenly judgment is upon them as they face the truth of their deed of selling Yosef away. Yosef tries to comfort them and explains that when the brothers owned Egypt, it wasn't Hashem, it was Hashem's will. Don't feel so bad. He embraces them all, just like he embraces Binyamin, who was not even part of the sale at the time. All the brothers are equal in his eyes. So, you ever see a person shudder, shake, lose himself physically? You ever see a person who's frightened out of his gizzards? 10 men stand in front of Yosef, absolutely frightened, shocked, and the sin of 22 years ago is visited upon them. Says the Gemara. Oy lanu b'yom adin. Oy lanu b'yom hatoch. From this we learn, woe unto all of us when the day of judgment shall come. Woe unto all of us when the day of retribution will come. And it will come to every one of us. And it's scary. Do you understand the fear, the fright? We're going to stand in front of God after 120 years and have to answer for what? For what I did when I was 18, what I did when I was 28, and on and on. That is a scary position. But we all go through life, we enjoy life, we try to be happy and feel good, and life is beautiful and so forth. And it should be. Everyone should go positive. I'm not telling people to walk around in terror. Every once in a while, it's a good sobering thing. And the next time a person is tempted to do the wrong thing, maybe you'll think about, wait a second, use your head. And frankly, when a person does that within his own emotions, within his own being, so to speak, what happens is that he puts his understanding together and he begins to think. So oftentimes, you know, the famous the slang in America, when a guy does something stupid, you say to him, "What were you thinking?" Right? Who says that? The answer is, "I wasn't thinking." That was the answer. I wasn't thinking. And I've been thinking of them. So we get the perspective here. Watch this unfold on the magic screen. Watch this fear, this terror, and realize that we all have to answer to Hashem at the end of the day. We all have to be responsible for our actions. And of course, in so doing, it has to be a realization. It has to be honest. It has to be upright and straightforward. There's no hiding. There's no ducking. See? And that's really this second confrontation. And I would have to say, everybody, this is a confrontation. But on the other hand, it does connect. They're connected. They're connected here, albeit in a fearful way. Number 3, the news reaches Paro, and that's a confrontation of Paro finally figuring out who Yosef really is. Yes, ma'am.
Can I go back to one and ask Lisa, where in the parsha does Yehuda,
Say that?
where in the parsha?
But you to say that.
Yeah, because I don't see it.
It ain't there.
Okay.
How do I know it then? Rashi says it. Now, when Rashi says it, you understand, Rashi is Rashi. When Rashi comments, and Rashi says his understanding of it. But see, Rashi's understanding is based upon this, since you asked the question. What's Rashi's understanding based upon? What? The desperation of approach, the desperation of physical approach, face to face. There's the desperation that says something that's desperate. So in terms of being desperate, how would you express your desperation? When you're desperate, make believe, right? How would you express your desperation? I mean, I'm desperate. You just can't say I'm desperate. Show me you're desperate. So I have to continue. I'm going to give my life. Of course, my life. So there, Rashi's interpretation makes some sense. But the first part is showing the respect. That was the kicker to the whole thing. That was the almost the comical part. I mean, he said, "First, I respect you," and the answer is yes, he did, because he always had respect, because that was how he was trained as a child from his son, from his father. Understand? So that's why Rashi adds that first part in as well. You get it? Okay, that's a good point you brought out, because what you're trying to say is, I hear Rashi's interpretation. How did Rashi get to it? So I'm trying to explain. Number 4, the brothers themselves could have easily blamed each other. Yosef told them not to do that. Do not engage in deep or blameful discussion when you are going back to Israel to get our father and bring down the family. It'll produce no value, which simply means that that's a confrontation that is worthless. Don't do it. It is worthless. Looking back, who's to blame? It's your fault. It's your fault. You did it. I did it. This guy did it. That guy did it. It produces no value whatsoever. It's a foolish, silly, and purely counterproductive conversation. There's no point in it anymore. And when people get into too much. What he's saying over there is, don't get into deep discussions. Deep discussions organized. People start thinking seriously and real deep about things and analyze situations. And they analyze in a way in which they say, well, that's because you probably said that because of that. Stop analyzing. No need for analysis here. No need for depth. No need for anything. It's not the time. It is what it is. It was what it was. This is not going to produce anything positive. Number 5. Whoa. Number 5. The brothers approached their father Yaakov. And they tell him, Yosef is still alive. You liars. You've been lying since day 1. 22 years ago, you were liars. You're liars. My father, blessed memory, would say, he used to tease me when I was a boy, he would say, you lie once, it'll come back to bite you, and no one else will believe you next time. And they didn't believe him. But then he sees wagons. He sees wagons. And the wagons prove to him that, and Torah says he sent wagons for some unknown, unexplicable reason. He sends wagons. Who needs wagons? He sends wagons to bring us to bring the father back. I didn't send a wagon. I'll send you a Rolls Royce. Send you a car. Send you an airplane. What's the wagons for? Who needs it? Yaakov doesn't have his own wagons. He's a wealthy man. It's a secret sign that only he and his father would know. The Hebrew word for wagon is agalah. The word agalah can also be spelled as eglah. What's an eglah? What's the name of it?
It's a cow.
It's a little calf.
Yeah.
Little calf.
Yeah.
It's a little calf.
Yeah.
There's a halacha about what happens when you find a person who's dead in between two cities. So the halacha is that you measure to which city he's closest to. Is he close to the city he came from, or close to the city he's going to? Whichever city we find the corpse closest to, assumes responsibility that for his death. And it's a sort of an understanding of, again, of a kidnapping situation, which is interesting because they're right after that shortly after that, Yosef is kidnapped. Father and son were big in learning. Father and son had this great bond between each other in Torah. They sat all day and learned together. In this bond, the last discussion they had before Yosef was abducted was the discussion of a calf being slaughtered in atonement for the dead body that was unattended to. If the body is closest to the city where it came from, that means the city did not escort him out properly and give him enough food to go to travel. If its body is closest to the city's coming towards, it means the city's responsible. It should have been out there to greet him. He's out there alone in the world, like abducted. And it's interesting that that's exactly what happens to Yosef if that's learning. But no one else in the world could possibly know what the two of them were sharing, except the two of them. He sees wagons, which is agalah, which reminds you of the calf, eglah, same word. And he says, only Yosef can know that. He's got to do it.
It says that he asked permission to go in to speak to him in the ear. It said that he asked permission
To
to talk to Yosef in the ear.
in the
Ear.
who?
Yoda.
Yeah, what's that gonna do with this one? This is not Judah and Yosef. This is the brothers confronting with their father.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The brothers are confronting with their father.
I was revisiting that.
No. The brothers are confronting their father. Oh, Yosef, Chaim, Klaus, Yaakov is still alive. Yeah, give me.
Would this be that opportunity for them to convey to Jacob?
It's all.
What they had actually done?
Well, they did. And he didn't believe him. Until you're alive.
Because it says he refused to be comforted.
That was it.
That was it, yeah.
Okay, so now he doesn't believe that. They have no, I mean, people who are known to fabricate, you don't believe what they say. A lot of people exaggerate stories. Right? And I saw it's 5,000 people there. Yeah, it was 200.
Right. Sarah, what point is it?
Forget Sarah for now. Just get the point across that the brothers are confronting their father.
They had to convey.
And with nearly the same terror, or maybe even more terror, than when they face Yosef. That correct?
Yeah.
And he doesn't believe him. With Yosef, the confrontation was pretty terrifying, but at least Yosef embraced him. The father doesn't embrace them at all. He says, you're a bunch of liars. You have no credibility. You're garbage in my face. And so what's going on is that the brothers have to meet up and go through this horrible, again, the second time around, confrontation with what they did 22 years ago. And Yaakov, for his part, does not believe him, which of course is a confrontation, which is kind of it's really a whole lot of negativity going on in terms of you're a bunch of liars, you have no credibility, you're garbage, you're nothing, this, that, and that. There's always some reason to way. That's part of the confrontation. Confronting with himself. Man, my son. Yeah, he's the only one who noticed. He said the witness is a son. I know it. My son's alive. Then part of this confrontation with the brothers and father is the father within himself. He's saying, oh my goodness, Yosef is still alive. Number 6, Yaakov confronts God. What do I make of this? What should I do with this? These brothers have abducted him. They sent him to Mitzrayim. He's still alive. What am I supposed to do with this? How do I respond to this? So, folks, what does this teach you? When you're faced with these kind of confrontations, What do you do? You understand? What do? What do I do with my life? My son's over there. What am I supposed to do? Leave my land, leave my country, take the whole family, but all myself. What am I supposed to do here? Hashem says to him, it's time to go to Egypt because that's going to be the fulfillment of the promise that I made to Abraham 2 centuries ago or 2 generations ago. It's the right thing to do. It's the fulfillment of the prophecy. And Yaakov, for the first time in 22 years, rejoices. That means for 22 years, he never had, though never records, Yaakov talking to Hashem. Because you can't talk to Hashem when you're miserable. When you're sad. You can only talk to Hashem when you're upbeat. So if you're wake up in the morning in a bad mood, get out. How do you get out? How do you pray to Hashem? So of course, but you gotta pray. So you do. Get yourself into a good mood. Find something positive. Think positive in life, because if you don't, you can't connect with God. You can't. You can't be a religious person with negativity. You have to have positivity. You have to feel, thank you Hashem for the world. Thank you Hashem for sunlight. Thank you Hashem that I can breathe. You gotta have that in order to be able to have some sort of connection. And if you don't have that connection, you're sleepwalking through the day. You're sleepwalking through the day. And you're going to bump into more poles than avoid them. Stumbling blocks. Okay. Number 7. The height of the film. Number 7, this is it. Yaakov and Yosef meet. Father and son reunite. The embracement, the great drama. After 22 years, Yosef cries and kisses his father, and Yaakov doesn't. Father does not kiss son, doesn't cry. What does Yaakov do? He says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Why? It was time for Shema. And so it was time for Shema, then it's time for Yosef too. Why does he say this? Do you understand that the joyous day, Yaakov realized, is thanks to Hashem. And recognize that, especially when Hashem's complete control of the world. All occasions, happily said, require a person to acknowledge God. Say a bracha. Realize that at great moments, once you can out Hashem's oneness in Hashem in the Shema. The custom in Israel is that a father recites the Shema at the birth of a newborn son. Have a baby. Shema Yisrael. And we mention this often, that there's a rule that you're not permitted, if you think your little child was sure on a Shabbat morning, you're not permitted to kiss your child in Shabbat. Why not? Because your love for Hashem is greater.
It's greater.
Why is it greater?
He's the one that gave you the child.
So understand how the religious expression of Hashem expresses the true joy. And frankly, whenever you have a great moment in life, you want to do this. How about a sad moment? Sad moment is nevertheless a traumatic one. You're at the graveside of a loved one. Someone you love very dearly. Very dearly. And yet, you know,
A quick question
right?
about the meeting. So Yosef sends.
Hold, let me finish this.
Okay.
Hang on. So, frankly, the sense of the loss of a loved one, you gotta make a bracha. Thank you, Hashem, King of the world, for being the true judge. And this person's in my life for this period of time. Now I have to relinquish that relationship, leave it to my heart. And that's a moment in which I've officiated 1,000 funerals. That's a moment in which people are at the most vulnerable, and they're looking to the rabbi for guidance and direction. First time ever when I lost my father, I was looking to somebody else, and you know what you really are trying to accomplish here, to process all this is acknowledgement of God. God is there for me in all cases, even in the most difficult times. And in a simcha way, welcome. Thank you, Hashem. But wouldn't it be so sad or so empty if, let's say, you had an occasion and you didn't make a bracha, and you didn't have a religious occasion, and you didn't make a religious event out of it? Well, we're gonna make this wedding over here, and the two of us will express our love for one another, blah, 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 I do. Who's gone here? Who's Hashem in this whole ceremony? I think he got the ceremony in the first place. So you see, the emptiness of secularism, the total emptiness of it. We need to acknowledge Hashem in more cases. Yaakov is giving us this story. Yaakov is giving us this preparation and setting the example. Occasions require religious expression. And so therefore, they require religious dictates or rules. Well, this is the way you do it. Well, I want to do it that way. Yeah, but that's not the way the Torah tells you. The Torah tells you to do it this way. This is what the Torah requires. This is what Hashem requires. This is how we truly express a connection to Hashem at this momentous occasion. And that's what Yaakov is doing. Yaakov is saying, Hashem, I need your advice. Tell me what to do. And he tells him to go down and serve. And Yaakov comes to Yosef. And that moment is going to be one of the most dramatic moments in the history of the Jewish people, probably one of the most dramatic moments in the whole Torah. And frankly, I'm not sure the Hollywood would capture it. I'm not sure that the act is good enough to capture it. The sense of a father and son after 22 years. And the fact that he's still alive, and the fact that I could see him one more time and sense that connection. And that's got to be big. That's got to be really something that's so emotionally great and hype. And then when you understand this, then you understand how to maximize great moments and really make them into great moments and not let them fly by. People oftentimes walk by and they don't stop to smell the flowers, right? They don't do the journey. Right? That's what we need to do. We need to, every step of the way is important. This is valuable. This is what we're doing. This means something, right? And so, and when it's really something, like a reuniting with your son, well, you're seeing your baby son for the first time, right? You make a bracha. What bracha are you supposed to make when you see your brand new baby for the first time? That's for a girl. For a boy, say something different. For a boy, we say the bracha, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hatov v'ameiti. We're expecting them to say it, but I'll let you know. we have several amongst my grandchildren. I have one in the oven, so we'll let you know about that. Anyway, but now you have a special moment, a moment of a baby girl. Thank you for granting the life to this happy moment. And so that's what Yaakov was doing in this consultation, an expression of Hashem. And finally, number 8, we talked about Paro meets Yaakov, and I want to see the guy whose son saved the country. Yaakov admits that his life's been difficult, and for this he'll be punished. He should not have told that to Paro. None of his business. You take your own issues, and you have strength enough inside you to keep them private. And that strength inside you to keep them private. I don't have to tell the Paro, whom I met for the first time in my life, you want to hear all my troubles? I would like to make that joke. You know, everyone says hello. You say hello to each other. Everyone say, how are you all the time? Mm-hmm. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. How are you? I don't care how you are, but people say it because you're supposed to say it. I don't really care how you are. And frankly, you're going to give me a whole story of how you are. I certainly don't want to hear it. How are you? That's the silliest crock in the world. How are you? It's hysterical.
That's the New Yorker in you, right?
That's right. You know, my mother, she lived me well. She came to California for the first time. We don't say hello to anybody in New York. No, that's right. So my mother, for the first time, comes to, you want to find a seat somewhere? So my mother comes to LA, and we're at the supermarket, and she she checks out the items, whatever it is, that'll be $50, whatever. And the lady says, have a nice day. And she says, I know you from somewhere. Whoever heard of that? We don't say those things in New York. We say, get out of the way. That's what we say. Anyway, so this is a mistake on Yaakov's part, but Paro wants to seek Yaakov's blessings, not the other way around. The Holy Tzaddik is in no need for a leader or a politician. They need us. So living your life with Hashem is a greater protection, greater fortune than any human leader can provide. And so the king of Egypt, other leaders of all countries are in need of Hashem and through the holy and righteous man. Number 9. Oh, by the way, look at the last part of 8. Yaakov blesses Paro, and guess what happens? Remember that there were 2 years of famine, right? Isn't that amazing? There were 7 good years, and then of course there was predicted 7 bad years, right? And during those first 2 years, the one that's all happening, right? And it's 5 more years to go to the famine. Well, stop. Yaakov is the power of brother, and the famine's over. I mean, you don't see the power of the religious man. Anyway, so number 9 and 10, you can look at yourself. That's just towards the end of the movie. Let's spend a few minutes on the fast days. The fast day coming up is Tuesday. It does not begin on Monday night. It begins on Tuesday morning. Yay! You want one? Okay. You want one? No, that's it. You can have this. Okay. So the fast begins on Tuesday morning. So eat on Monday night to content. I think we're going out for dinner on Monday night because my son-in-law's birthday is on the fast. My son-in-law's birthday was born on 7 tapes, and it's 10 tapes. So we're celebrating the night before. What's interesting is that what happens if, let's say, I get up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. Can I have I can ask you a question. Hold on.
And I know the answer to that one too.
Oh, okay. Can I get up at 2, 3, or 4 in the morning and have snacks?
Yeah.
Certainly. When do I
Anything
have
before
to?
dawn.
What?
Anything before dawn.
Okay, tell me what dawn is, please.
527.
You say 5:27. What do you say? 5:27. Okay. When is sunrise? Sunrise is always, good thing to learn, 72 minutes after dawn. 6:39. Sunrise is 6:30. Everybody knows that the transition between day and night and day is always gradational, gradual. It doesn't happen in seconds. You don't flip a switch and it turns light or turns dark. So therefore, the dawn hits at 5:27. And frankly, if you look outside, you don't notice it. And it's as dark as ever. 6:39 is sunrise. During that time, of course, is the gradual time to develop the day. When is the optimum time to start to say the morning service?
After the first light.
Which is what? Dawn or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Okay, but not where you start shacharit. The starting of shacharit, of course, is the preliminary blessings and for the men to put on talit and tefillin and the preliminary songs of praise, and then the Shema. You should hit optimally the Shemona Esrei, that's the Amidah, at 6:39. That's the proper time. Baruch Shema before that. You have the Amidah at 6:39. That's nets. That's the optimal. Can you daven beyond that? Well, sure. You don't get up that early. You can still daven up until it's 4 hours in the morning, till about maybe 10 a.m. or so. You can't say Shema beyond 9. Shema can only be recited within the first 3 hours of the morning. The Amidah can be recited up until 4 hours in the morning. That's up to 10 o'clock. So let's say the dawn rises at 5:27. So when is the last moment I could pray the evening service of the night before? RV.
Say midnight.
Wait, that's true.
They say midnight.
They say you should stop at midnight, it's true. But you can go up to sunrise if you have to. But not sunrise, I beg your pardon. Up to dawn. Up to 5:27. That's it. Then the evening service is over. So therefore, I have to stop eating by 5:27. Correct? Agreed? Okay. So I'm going to stop eating at 5:27. Or maybe I get up at 4 o'clock, have a snack, whatever. And the fast begins at 5:27 officially. During the 5:27 to 6:39 period, you can start some preliminary prayers and then hit the Amidah at 6:39. If you get up later, so then you can still pray the Shema till 9 and the Amidah till 10. The fast ends, and again, we've got these two factors: sunset and stars out. And there's a period of time of gradational change. That period of time is assumed to be 42 minutes. Some do keep at 72 the same amount, but most keep the 42. So the candle lighting was 4:26 on Friday, which means that 18 minutes later was 18 minutes later was sunset, which is 4:44. So then stars out is 42 minutes later, which is about 5:26, which frankly is always an hour. Rule of thumb is always an hour after Shabbat starts. An hour after candle lighting.
But Chabad goes 72.
Okay, so other people go 30 minutes, yeah, and they'll go to, instead of 5:26, they'll go to 5:56, right? So basically, your time factors have to always realize that the transitional period of time, you really can't do much in terms of prayer. Prayer service has to be done within the confines of sunrise to sunset. Anyway, the sun sets at 4:44. We'll say the stars come out at 5:26. So the fast is over at 5:26. So the fast began at 5:27 and ends at 5:26. So we got about a 12-hour fast. Frankly, it's the easiest fast of the year. It's a winter time. You get up, you don't have breakfast, you turn around, you're coming home, dinner, done. It's the easiest part. So let's talk about the names of these fasts. They're called by Zechariah. The fast days are designated as observance of the commandments of the prophets. The prophet's name is Zechariah, chapter 8, verse 19. There's a star there. The star will be found on number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 only. There's only 4 fasts. 5 and 6 are not prophesied by Zechariah. These 4 are known as, it's the Takana Rabbanan, once again, another ruling of the rabbis. The Yom Kippur, of course, it's from the Torah, that's Midoraisa. Tikkun Olam is the reason behind the Takana and helps keep the world and our society function properly, which we talked at the beginning of the day regarding marriage. One of the ideas that helps our society is to remember the past, the sins of our ancestors that caused tragedies, and to fast to do tshuva and bring about the Geulah. One of the best ways you can do tshuva is feel a little self-affliction, feel a little pain. And internalize the feeling and feel bad, and that's fasting is a good thing to do. The tzom is called Revi'i, number 1. That's from the name. That's for the word fourth month. Tzom Chamishi is the 5th month. Tzom Shvi is the 7th month, and Tzom Asir, which is our fast, is the 10th month. Tzom Asiri, the 10th month, is Asara B'Tevet, 10th of Tevet. It commemorates the beginning of the siege of Yerushalayim by Nebuchadnezzar during the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. Now, both temples, both Beis Hamikdashes were destroyed on the same day, Tisha B'Av, and you can see Tisha B'Av number 2, the most tragic day of the year, has 5 tragedies. Hashem decreed that the Jews would not enter Eretz Yisrael because of the sin of the spies. That night, the spies returned with a negative report about Eretz Yisrael. The people cried for nothing. Hashem said, I'll give you what to cry about. And declared this day of Tisha B'Av a day of sadness and tragedy forever. That's in a summary. Also, what happened on the very same day, the 9th of Av, the 5th month, Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the first temple, the second Beis Hamikdash, the annihilation of the city of Beitar, and the Tunas Rufus plowing under the Heichal, under the Holy of Holies in the temple of the Beis Hamikdash. Yes, sir.
Reference to Teshuvah. I read that the Messiah was supposed to come.
Right. The redemption should be on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is going to be on. Tisha B'Av is going to be a celebration. It will become a celebration.
Zechariah 6.
Yeah. These days will become
Yes.
days of rejoicing. Correct.
Yes.
So the Tzom Revi, going back to number 1, is the month of Tammuz. Tammuz is the 4th month. Av is the 5th month. The 17th of Tammuz has 5 tragedies. The 9th of Av, the 5th month, has 5 tragedies. Both occur in the summer, in the 4th month and 5th month, starting from Nisan. Can someone tell me how much time elapses between number 1 and number 2, between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av? Anybody? Anybody know that? Yeah, you should know that.
40.
Yael Dixon, you should know this answer.
What? Sorry.
How much time elapses between the 17th of Tammuz, Allison? How much time elapses between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av? Well, this is the question number 1 on the conversion test. Number 1 question. No. How much time elapsed? Well, count it. Try that one. Count it up. The 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av. Who said it? Yay. Someone came up with it. Yeah. 3 weeks.
21 days.
How many days? Well, 3 weeks. When will they say that?
Oh.
Right. Okay. Anyway, it's a 3-week period of sadness and mourning. No haircuts, no weddings, no music, no parties, and so forth.
But you can get engaged.
But you can get engaged, yes. The 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av is the summer months, 3 weeks of sadness. It begins on the 17th of Tammuz, the 4th month, and commemorates those 5 destructions, 5 tragedies. By the way, on the 17th of Tammuz, 1E, that's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets. That's correct. Amongst other things as well. 3 weeks later, of course, that's the same day that the Romans broke into Jerusalem on the 2nd destruction. 3 weeks later, the Romans destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, put the Beis Hamikdash in flames. So those are 3 tough weeks during the summer, and they're tough fasts because they're summer fasts and they're long throughout, ends maybe as late as 8 o'clock at night, and the fasts are of a long nature. So Shvi is the 7th month, that's Tishrei. That recognizes and commemorates the fast of Gedaliah. He was killed. He was an appointed governor of Israel. He was assassinated. And the exile of the small remnant of the Jews who lived in Israel after the Babylonian exile became complete. Anyone want to tell me what day? Not you. Watch out for this guy. You meet him in the street, watch out. Anyone want to tell me what is the what is the one more question? Yeah, well, what day of the month of Tishrei is Tzom Gedaliah? Anybody? Gimel.
It's my birthday. We do this every time.
Oh, really? You also born on a fast day? Whoa. Good then.
But sometimes it gets go crack, so
You're lucky.
I gotta celebrate, yeah.
You get to celebrate. Well, if you only have a celebration a birthday once every 3 years or so, you'll
We
probably
spoke
only
about this, it's why I'm barely aging.
That's right. We did speak about this.
We did.
This is getting tough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even reduce my material, thank you.
Okay, good.
How did right?
He was assassinated.
Wow.
They were warring groups. But this is our problem. This is Jewish history. Tragically, in a nutshell, we have so many difficulties internally in terms of fighting with one another, arguing with one another, not getting along with one another. That's the destruction of the temple. And that was a continuation of that. But warring groups felt that Gedaliah was not appropriate, and they killed him. So, we need to really think about this in terms of the Tavis, and this will conclude in just a minute. Anyway, so my series number 4, that's the one we got to focus on. I just want to go to 5 and 6 real quick. The fast of Esther was not by Zechariah, it was by Esther herself. She commemorated the fast that she undertook in the days of Mordechai and Esther to save us from Purim. Number 6, Yom Kippur is the only fast that is a Torah obligation. It is the last day of the 10 days of Tshuva, beginning with Rosh Hashanah, in which month? Tishrei. Yom Kippur is more than a holiday in a technical sense. It's a Shabbat. That means that all 39 forbidden labors of Shabbat are forbidden in Yom Kippur. Where not so on other holidays, Yom Kippur has all 39 forbidden. Number 7, the 17th of Tammuz, Som Gedaliah and Atzer B'Tevel are of equal stringency. The fast of Esther is more lenient. The Shabbat is more stringent. Now let's turn the page for a moment and take a look at number 9. On 3 of the 4 fast days and the fast of Esther, that's 4, one may wear leather shoes, use oil and ointments, have marital relations, wash hands and face, but you may not eat or drink. On Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, however, which copies Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av, the above are all forbidden. They are known as the 5 afflictions, the 5 Inuyim, and you must remember them. Those are applicable and forbidden only on Yom Kippur and only on Tisha B'Av. Take a look at number 13. What are the differences and similarities between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av? Similar, a full 25-hour fast, all 5 afflictions are in effect. The difference is that Shabbos, Yom Kippur, the fast is observed, and Shabbos Tisha B'Av, the fast is pushed to Sunday. Difference, on Yom Kippur it's forbidden to do malacha or work, Tisha B'Av is permitted. Difference, Yom Kippur is a day of simcha, cleansed from sin. Tisha B'Av is a day of mourning, also the base of Mikdash and other tragedies. Now, let's take a look at those similarities. Number 13a, 25-hour fast. That's only Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Does not apply anywhere else. 5 afflictions. It only applies to Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Does not apply anywhere else to the other fasts. Now, number 10. Yes.
There's also a difference, we categorize in one of these, but in how many Leahs, you say on both. Because Yom Kippur has a special number of Leahs,
How many?
6.
Good.
And Tisha B'Av, is it 3?
Regular 3, right.
So
That's
you
good.
can add it to the list.
I'll do that. I'll put your name next to it. Number 10, on 3 of the 4 fast days, the fast of Esther. The fast begins at dawn, ends at nightfall. Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are full 25 hours, as we said. Number 11, Asar B'Teves, that's this Tuesday, is the only fast that can never fall on Shabbat, ever. And the only fast that can ever fall on Friday. No fast ever falls on Friday, but this one. This year it's Tuesday, but it's the only one that can ever fall on Friday in that case. What happens if it does fall on Friday? No, it doesn't.
No.
As I said, no.
You said it cannot.
We break the fast with Kiddush.
That.
Oh,
The Shabbat takes
Where'd you come?
Huh?
Where'd you come? It is the only fast besides Yom Kippur that will travel ever so slightly into Shabbat. It's a Friday morning fast, goes into the evening, light the candles. I still haven't broken the fast. I've gone to shul. I come back, and we're all still fasting on Shabbat.
We do the same on Tisha B'Av. When Tisha B'Av falls out on Sunday, we start the fast on Shabbos and Saturday night.
Right, but that wouldn't be a problem because since you've eaten the whole entire Shabbat anyway, it doesn't really matter. You really can't call that a fast. What you do is, if I'm on Shabbat without any food at all, I got a problem. If I had eaten, but I'm not eating anymore, that's not a problem.
You have, so, but. if
And
you're
that,
not
so
able
therefore,
to-
your example of Tisha B'Av is incorrect because I've already eaten all day. Today's Tisha B'Av, it's on Shabbat. So Shabbat overrides Tisha B'Av, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've eaten Friday night, I've eaten Shabbos day, I've eaten this third meal as well. I just stopped a little earlier. That doesn't really affect the Shabbat. What affects the Shabbat is the fact that I'm coming into Friday night with nothing in there. And I said that affects Shabbat. And the reason that's significant is because I would have thought that Shabbat overrides everything with Yom Kippur. Doesn't even override Tisha B'Av for that matter. Tisha B'Av overrides Shabbat overrides Tisha B'Av, right? The only thing that overrides Shabbat is Yom Kippur. Here it is, a simultaneous, the 10th of Tammuz, a winter fast, a short fast, not nearly as tragic as, let's say, the 17th of Tammuz on the 9th of Av. And yet, for some strange reason, I have to go into Shabbat hungry. That, in a sense, disturbs the Shabbat. And yet that is done. And the question is why?
Because if without the Torah, when you said that it was given and the day that he broke it, we would have been hungry without the Torah.
Yeah, but that's 17th of Tammuz. That's not 9th.
Oh, that.
10th of Tammuz is, again, what does the 10th of Tammuz commemorate? Let's go back. 10th of Tammuz commemorates
The siege of Jerusalem.
the siege of Jerusalem, beginning with the Nebuchadnezzar. By the way, that siege took 2.5 years to complete. The 2.5 years the Babylonians are sieging Jerusalem. Then they break into Jerusalem, destroy the temple. It's a bad day, but it's not nearly as bad as the destruction of the temple itself, or the breaking into Yerushalayim. How does it work that a Asar B'Teves, the 10th of Teves, this Tuesday, could possibly interrupt ever so slightly the Shabbat? It could interrupt the Shabbat ever so slightly. How does that happen? The answer is as follows. Take a look at number 12. Many say that Asar B'Teves, this coming Tuesday, may be the most important of the 4 fasts mentioned by Zechariah. More important than Tisha B'Av. Whoa, how? This is because it's the only rabbinic fast that will ever override Shabbat, even if it's only for a few minutes of the Friday night. It'll still override Shabbat. You will not be permitted to eat until the fast is over, until Kiddush. Secondly, and this is very important, the siege of the beginning of the siege of the first destruction signifies the beginning of all of our sorrows, all of our tragedies ever since, which continues to the second destruction and the second exile that we are until today. Once Nebuchadnezzar began to lay siege to Yerushalayim, and once he began this series of destructions, this continuum of harm, destruction, the first temple, the return, but the destruction, the second one, which only lasted 400 years, and then the exile, the second exile, all of our issues really began that day. That was the day when our heyday, shall we say, our apex, our greatness came to an end. Ever since then, even those 400 years that we had the second temple, it wasn't the same. Even those 400 years we had that independence in Israel, it wasn't the same. Ever since Nebuchadnezzar began with the first siege, we have not been the same people. We have not had the great respect of the world. We've suffered persecution. At one time, the Jewish people were the crown jewel of humanity. The world feared us. They marched out of the greatest power on earth, Egypt, destroyed them in the sea that they were drowned in, moved on to Israel, established our country and our commonwealth, and never looked back. The people of the crowning jewel that spits the apex of the world, us Jews. Wow, today we're a little minority. We behave privately, we ask for favors and kindness. Please, Mr. President, be nice to us, whatever. Yeah. When the Jews in Russia was great oppression from the Tsar. So they used to go to the rabbi and ask the rabbi, we make a bracha for the Tsar? And he said, yes. Make a bracha, bless Hashem, keep the Tsar far away from us. We have never really known the greatness and the grandeur that we had then. We've never seen it since. This day began all of our descent. This type of day is. And it's a small day, it's a slight day, it's 10 hours, 12 hours, easy fast, blah, blah, blah. Go to work, eat, and all of a sudden it's all over. But again, I think people really need to take a second look at this. It's not just a baby fast. This could be something real. This probably is something real. There is a seriousness to this fast day, which on this fast day, all the issues that have betrayed us, and all the issues that have haunted us and hounded us through the centuries, start on this day, several things. So it should be given a lot of thought. Just don't fast on the day, give it some thought, and give it a lot of thought. Whenever we give thought to fast day and the suffering of history, but people look around and say, well, those Jews, they're members like elephants. They don't forget anything, and we don't, because we know that our future is based upon how well we remember our past. We really got to connect with the past. We really do. And since the sufferings of our people, we can do it as recently as thinking about the Holocaust nearly 70, 80 years ago. Isn't a bad idea. In fact, in Israel, the rabbis set up that a Asar B'Tevet should be known as a day of Kaddish. You want to hear that? You hear that? They say that anybody that's lost a loved one during the Holocaust and does not know the exact date of when that person was killed can observe the Yortzeit and the Kaddish on this 10th day of Tevet, this coming Tuesday. So it's a good thing to think about. And it's a good thing to realize that this is a significant fast. Again, it's not stringent. It's only a prohibition of food and drink. And furthermore, it starts early in the morning. You can eat all night. So it doesn't sound that stringent, but it does tell you that you should give this some thought. It does tell you that you should really be understanding why we are fasting and think about why we are fasting to make the day meaningful. In shul, we will read the Torah, special reading. In shul, we will say Salichot, as if it was Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. Then we do it every fast day. And we will also say, by the way, a very important prayer called Alinu Malkeinu. Alinu Malkeinu is a very important prayer. We say it often, we say it every day during the high holidays, during the 10 days to Rosh Hashanah. It should be recited on Tuesday as well. So you get an idea that this is an important fast. Again, the rules are not as strict, but the thought needs to be there. Once again, always remember that we have 6 fasts. One is from the Torah, and that's the apex, that's Yom Kippur, and that overrides Shabbat, and it also is a full 25-hour, and it also has 5 afflictions. The only one closest to that is Tisha B'Av, which also has afflictions, and also has the 25 hours, but Tisha B'Av does not override Shabbat. All the rest of the fasts are rather lenient. You can eat and drink all night before. You don't have 5 afflictions, and that's what this Tuesday is all about. So on a halakhic level, on a legal level, the stringency is not that strong. Nevertheless, a person should be giving it the thought that I mentioned. What happens if a person is not feeling well on Tuesday? Maybe break the fast. So we all know there is a technicality of how to break the fast. What's the technicality?
Less than 3 ounces.
Less than 3 ounces of drink and less than the size of an olive, of let's say, of a piece of bread or something. You can eat small amounts or drink small amounts every 9 minutes or so, in which it really is, it's nourishing, which helps, but it's not really very tasty. which is the point. No, you haven't broken the fast. The fast said you can't eat, because they can't taste. So if you just do the tasting, technically you haven't broken the fast. If you need to do that, certainly you should. If you're pregnant, then for sure you should. But on the other hand, if you can, and then you should fast. There's no real excuse not to. If a person truly is not feeling well, then the person may break the fast without question. And so those are the rules, basically. I want you to keep these papers with you. This is a very important paper regarding the fast days and all the rules and regs. Parashas Vayigash is your gift, or my gift to you. Hope you enjoy it. You want to stick around, there's a wedding in a half hour. Otherwise, we need to make the appointment. We'll make the appointment now. Thank you all for coming, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.